Welcome to Pitch It To Me podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. Today, we'll be pitching predictions about the next set with special guest, me, Talon Stradley. You can find us across all socials such as Bluesky and Instagram at Pitch It To Me podcast.
I'm Fuzzy.
I'm Clark.
I'm Joel.
And I'm Talon.
Talon Stradley, who are you?
It's me. I'm here.
He's been your friend for the past, he's been our friend for the past decade, Fuzzy. How do you forget Talon?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You were the best man at his wedding.
That is true. And that entire time over the past decades of friendship, I have been begging to come on as a guest for pitching predictions for High Seas.
Facts.
He's nothing if not persistent.
It was all the long game to get me here.
And what's crazy is that we're going to have two guests today. Captain Hornswoggle's been running a little late, but
Yeah, he's a busy man. He tends to be a little late on the draw there, but he said he was going to be here. He assured us.
yeah. Fuzzy, could you give him a call to see how far out he is?
Okay.
Yar! Fuzzy! Where are you boys?
We're in our garage recording, Captain Hornswoggle. Where are you?
I can't find you. I'm walking down Magnolia Boulevard, and all I'm seeing is a playground with a bunch of children about. And lovebirds biking across the seaboard. And trains in the distance.
Wait, I think you cut out there, Captain Hornswoggle.
There's skyscrapers, and there's trains, and there's public transportation. Where are you boys? Which line do I take to get to the garage?
Joel, does that sound like Long Beach to you?
Captain
Of course
Hornswoggle.
I'm in Long Beach. Long Beach, New York.
Oh, no.
Captain Hornswoggle.
We're in Long Beach, California.
Long Beach, California? That's on the other side of the continent.
Well, at least you have your geography right, Captain Hornswoggle. Now that we figured out...
Damn it. I'm going to have to sail all the way around South America. It's not an easy trip.
You know what, Captain Hornswoggle? I'll save you the trip. Why don't you plan on coming back for a future episode, maybe when we cash in our pitching predictions?
When will that be?
Oh, early June.
Oh, so I need to leave right now. Or I won't make it. Oh, sorry, boys. I need to go. There's a kraken attacking me ship. Get away! Where are some cannons? There's got to be cannons around there. You little boy, where are the cannons?
Get the spray bottle, Captain Hornswoggle.
God damn it, boy! I got to go.
Well, good luck. Bye-bye. Damn, he is so unreliable.
Holy shit, a kraken?
Yeah, he does that all the time. It's not a big deal to him.
Right outside of New York, though?
Oh, yeah, it might be a big deal to New York.
I feel like those are chilly waters. That seems more like a West Coast thing, you know?
Yeah. Maybe it was just a whale.
That would be so embarrassing for him if he was that scared of a whale.
I don't know. It was attacking his ship. Whales are pretty big creatures. They can sink a ship.
Well, I guess we should focus on our guest that is here today.
Hey, yeah.
So we might as well talk about what we're doing this episode, get right into it, not delay too much longer. We were going to do some other episode this week. We had all the notes prepared and everything.
It was a banger.
And then spoilers came out.
And we shredded the notes. You'll never get to hear that episode again until next week.
Mm-hmm. But this week, it's pitch and predictions, baby. This time, we're trying to do it so early that LSS can't possibly disrupt us with any more spoilers.
Mm-hmm. We just got a bunch of information leaked from the world premiere Taipei, right? Mm-hmm. So we got some promos, we've seen the heroes, and that's about it. And some Necromancer cards.
Yeah, those immediately went down, which is kind of signaling to me that they shouldn't have gone up in the first place.
Yeah, not before I screenshotted it.
Not before the entire community screenshotted those things. So if you don't know, the Pitch and Predictions episode is where we make a bunch of predictions about the upcoming set. I know it's very, very early to be doing this. High Seas still isn't going to come out for 2 months, but everyone's thinking about it. So we want to hear your opinions. What do you think is going to come out in the high seas, what are going to be some of the set mechanics, maybe some of the majestic designs for some of the heroes and their cards.
And we've already been polling our Discord users on what they think is going to be in the set. We can always hear your opinion. We always are looking for more people chiming in with what they think is going to be in the set. But we're going to be showcasing some of those predictions in our episode today.
Yeah. And if you also want to end up on the podcast, go ahead, join our Discord, chat with us in there, join our Patreon. We always pull somebody out every single episode in our Arsenal zone for that. But I think we are going to go ahead and talk about specifically how are we going to structure this episode.
For today's episode, it's just going to be the 3 sections that we'll be focusing on, which are the 3 revealed classes, Necromancer, Ranger, and Mechanologist, respectively. With a lot of leeway given if our predictions don't happen to be directly related to those classes. Each host will be given the opportunity to make 4 main predictions over the course of the episode. We'll also be peppering in predictions from our Discord users, so thank you to everyone who was on our Discord today making those predictions. And once the set releases in about 2.5 months' time, we'll rehash all of our predictions to see who knows LSS the best, or the least.
So let's jump into Red Pitch, which is probably the most exciting class to talk about, Necromancer.
Oh, man.
So, Fuzzy, what's your prediction for the Necromancer class?
So we just saw that they released a couple of different allies for Necromancer, as well as the Compass of Sunken Depths, which is a offhand. So I'd like to make a prediction about the main hand weapon that Gravy Bones is going to be printed with.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a pirate Necromancer weapon that will not do anything without any allies on board. In the same way that there are illusionist weapons that don't do anything without allies on the board. Like Dromai has her scepter that gives all of her dragons the ability to attack. I think while the allies don't need something like that because they already have the ability to attack, I think there's going to be some buff to the allies that Gravy Bones' main hand weapon is going to give.
Interesting.
Or maybe it would attack based on the number of allies you have or something, or like tap an ally to do something. But if you don't have an ally, that weapon ain't going to do shit.
Interesting.
I think that makes a lot of sense for like you noted how we've seen ally-based heroes balanced in the past, where like this is someone who has a lot of recursion built into their kit theoretically, right? Like being able to like pull things from the graveyard, lots of card advantage, lots of opportunities to play things, and so I feel like that just needs to be curbed a little bit. Like, okay, you can have some good late game, but you can't have like the crazy long late game of also being able to attack relentlessly.
Yeah. I don't think they're ever going to return to the Dromai thing of like, if you pitch a yellow or a card with Watery Grave, all your allies will have go again. I don't think they're ever going to return to that level of like widespread go again.
No, I'm definitely expecting something more balanced.
It definitely could be like I could see like a pay 2, your next ally attack has go again kind of thing. But I also very easily see it being a weapon. If Necromancer is more focused on attack actions, I can see like using the weapon sort of as where an ally attack would go if you don't have enough allies on board, right?
Yes. Now, I will say, I don't believe that this will be the only weapon Gravy Bones will have access to, but I do think it'll be like his signature weapon, the Pirate Necromancer weapon specifically. I actually do think there might be another alternative for him in the form of like
a pirate,
like a generic pirate weapon, like a cutlass or something.
Yeah.
What if it's like a weapon with attack value? When it hits, your next ally attack gets go again.
But then it would have to have go again itself.
Sure. So then give it go again.
I guess
They don't like giving weapons go
You
again
know,
unless
in that
they're
situation,
daggers.
my prediction would be wrong because I'm putting my money on the attack. The weapon will do nothing unless you have an ally on board.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I would still love a weapon like that. Don't get me wrong. I'd be like really happy to be wrong, you know?
All right, let's move on now to a fan prediction that Lemur, it's Earthbending, is a user in our Discord. And they made the prediction that Gravy Bones will get a specialization that lets him mill cards from his own deck with bonus points if it's an X or an X+1 resource cost. I love me my X spells, so I like this.
I just love the idea of like you pass over to Gravy and they're like, all right, I cast a spell, X is 9, I'm gonna mill 9 cards. And you're like, oh fuck, oh no, they're popping off.
It's a very, very cool idea, but self-mill definitely seems like an important thing, especially if gold is going to be a gated mechanic.
Also, shout out to that lemur it's earthbending for liking the podcast so much that he decided to move in with 2 of the hosts.
I'm really excited for like this side of the Necromancer, because for those who don't know, like I played Dredge in Magic. That was like the last real Magic deck that I played, and I loved it. And like Fuzzy got me a Chain Blitz deck to start me off because it played into some of those Dredge mechanics. So I'm really excited at the idea of like this self-milling kind of thing. It feels a little bit different than like what we've seen in Brute with like the discard or with playing from Banish and stuff with Shadow. It's like, give me some good old-fashioned in the graveyard dirt cards, you know?
Dirt cards.
Talon sure does love his dirt.
Give me scrap.
How about you, Clark? Did you have any thoughts about what Necromancer could look like, or what cards they could have?
No, I am going to instead talk about how I think heroes are going to start interacting with Necromancer in the form of hate cards. So, Necromancer is able to play cards from graveyard. And I think we all know just how incredibly broken that can be in a good TCG, right? We already see how dangerous it is with some of Levia's things, right? With Plasmafet and the Banish Zone, which already kind of has an extra hoop to jump through, and like an extra hard hoop to even get that ability. But even like Shadow Realm Horror, you banish those 3/6s, like that ability to get free card value from graveyard is so powerful. We've seen it with CYB. And LSS said, we don't think there's enough hate for this particular strategy, so we're going to ban the blues. So, what hate is coming? We've already seen Gravekeeping shown as a possible promo, which banishes cards from graveyard. But banishing cards from graveyard and making that something as a generic to give to everybody can, I think, be extra destructive to certain deck archetypes, but not flipping cards in graveyard upside down.
Oh.
When Watery Grave goes to graveyard, it flips upside down, meaning it no longer has that front text, no longer has Watery Grave, and you can no longer cast it from graveyard, which is what Gravy Bones ability allows him to do. So by turning it face down, you remove the Watery Grave ability, no longer castable, but it stays in graveyard. I think they're going to give that to like a 2-6 Majestic or like a non-attack action card. CYB loses its name, but you don't need to worry about all this Banish Zone interaction effect going on. So it would do an effective job of hating on CYB, of hating on Necromancer, any future graveyard strategies, but it would still allow these other strategies to still have some play and have some effect into it.
I can't imagine trying to pick random cards out of my graveyard when some of them are face up and some of them are face down.
Like, that sounds...
But Levi already deals with some clunky ass shit, so...
Very, very true. Actually, having face down cards in graveyard for Levi does sound like a nightmare. But flipping cards in graveyard upside down, I think, is like a very efficient hate opportunity.
As somebody who would be playing into Levia, I would way rather be like adding these misses into their graveyard rather than just like banishing straight out. You know, like if there's like Gravekeeping where it banishes versus Gravekeeping where it flips, like I'm adding the misses in there, baby. I'm hoping for that little bit of extra luck.
I really like this prediction because it's a very elegant solution of future-proofing this type of hate without, like you said, just invalidating like so many of the strategies that I think they're getting more comfortable iterating on. Like Shadow Runeblade, obviously Vincett's been getting some power, and if they ever want to buff her, they're going to have to come up with ways to deal with Graveyard and Banish without completely gimping her or anybody else who deals with Graveyard synergies, like Kasai specifically, or like Loyalty Beyond the Grave. Like there's a lot of like Graveyard synergy going on right now, but I can't imagine they would want to like
Pigeonhole
all these designs so abruptly.
But at the exact same time, Fuzzy, like you said, some cards in graveyard becoming face down, like then how does Levia remember which cards are face down? Because once it's face down, it's no longer public information. So it's not like you can retroactively go back after the banish. Right now, what Levia players are doing is that they pick up their graveyard, they shuffle it, and then they present it face down to the opponent to select cards.
Yeah, listeners, we had actually a pretty lengthy conversation right before recording where we were all arguing about what this means for the future of the game and the set. Like when we have cards face down in graveyard, we've never really had that before. I would expect a little bit of like a rules document, little rules update on the release of the set. Like, what does it mean to be face down in graveyard?
I I think that I'm going to go on record and say that I'm almost on the other side of this, where I think that there's something else going on here that we're missing. Like maybe face down cards in graveyard is just relegated to Watery Grave. And it's
Totally
not
possible.
about like any kind of graveyard hate, because they're essentially creating a new zone. We already have graveyard and then banish, which is supposed to function as that kind of, it's out of the graveyard, it's out of the game. And then we also have face down banish. So this is essentially creating a fourth zone where things are not in hand or in play. And so I think it's going to be very intentional. I think that there's a reason why they don't say banish this whenever it goes to your graveyard. So maybe Necromancer cares about banishing cards from graveyard. Maybe there's a double side to these allies, and there's another way that they can be interacted with in the graveyard once they go there. But I do think that it's going to be more relegated. It's going to be kind of, it seems almost crucial. I would go so far as to say that this is going to be a key part of like what Gravy Bones is wanting to do. It involves these cards being face down in some way. But I do have my own prediction for Necromancer.
Before we move on to Yellow Pitch, I have one more prediction I want to make for Necromancer.
You're cashing in your bonus now?
Yes, I get to make one extra prediction and one extra pitch. That'll be now. I think there's going to be a little monkey ally card somewhere in the set, and I think it's probably Necromancer.
Damn it, that's such a home run prediction. Why didn't I think of that one?
Little best bud.
Little bone monkey.
Yeah, little bonky.
Knowing Ellis says they will name it Bonky.
They'll have some other name like Fred. There's lots of little monkeys that you see in pirate media. I think it'd be silly if they didn't include a monkey ally in the set. And so far, the only confirmation we've had for allies is in the Necromancer class. I think there's definitely a chance we see allies in other places, but somewhere there's going to be a monkey ally. That's kind of a fast one. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Maybe it steals gold from other players. That'd be really cute.
Oh, maybe it's time they print Ragavan in Flesh and Blood.
Please, dear God, no.
So I want to take a slightly different look at the Necromancer class for my prediction. There's been a lot of talk over what the Watery Grave keyword is, but I think that's something we're going to see more generally mechanically represented in the Necromancer class is cards that care about the amount of other cards that share a name with it in the graveyard.
Ooh.
Like what we've seen with Count Your Blessings, right?
And we all love Count Your Blessings.
Yeah. But I
That's like the one element that Count Your Blessings I actually like.
Yeah, right? Like it leads to, I think something that Count Your Blessings does bring is this really like lopsided gameplay that can be really fun, right? Where it's like your first couple of casts, you're not getting a lot of great value on that. But it's not about those first couple of casts. It's about the longevity of the game and this kind of steady pressure that can build up. And that feels very Necromancer-y to me, right? That feels like here's the zombie horde slowly coming in. It's persistent. It's there. And I think that cards like this could be a really good way to tap into that very easily, right?
I mean, like, I can see an ally creator that makes the amount of allies equal to cards with the name in graveyard.
And that is terrifying to me as a Ranger player. But it's exactly that, right? Yeah, your first cast is not going to be Rake the Embers, but you start hitting that third, fourth, fifth, God forbid, your ninth cast of that, right?
Yeah.
But you got to get there first. And if you have a bunch of pearls, if you have a bunch of no blocks, like what Fuzzy suggested, who knows? Maybe that's where they end up. But yeah, I really like that mechanic. And I would love to see that in Necromancer. I think it fits well flavorfully. Seems like a cool mechanical space that hasn't been fully explored in the game yet.
Joel, what do you got for your prediction, Necromancer style?
So what we've seen so far from the Necromancer is the Blue Majestic, which is Chart the High Seas. That's your gold generation, and it's also a way to pay for some of your bigger allies like Chum, because he costs 4. And Chum and the other ally, Rigor Mortis.
Yeah.
I actually really like that name.
That's a solid pun.
That's a solid
That's
pun.
a solid pun.
I respect your game for sure. So what they're missing is like this Red Majestic, and I think in line with the other control decks that we've seen, I think it's going to be a juicy red attack action. It's going to be like a 4 for 8, 4 for 9, whatever, with some disruption. Because so far it seems like it's really hard to, number one, make gold as a Necromancer, and also to get your allies into graveyard without just like, full blocking or looting a lot. So I think they're going to need some way to carve out some tempo for themselves in the early to mid game. So I think, big red majestic attack action.
Sweet.
Yeah. I think that's a really good prediction because we've seen a blue Majestic, which hurt the high seas, the yellow Majestic with Chum, and LSS loves their cycles. Actually, I would say they don't love their cycles, but they've been growing into loving their cycles. We've seen more and more cycles as set design has gone on, and so being like, well, here's a blue, here's a yellow, there's a red.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my riff on that. What if the attack action is like when it hits, each player destroys their hand and a pitch zone?
Oh, just like discard everything?
It's just like blow up everything. Like you pitch a bunch of watery grave things to play this and you're destroying them, but also you're disrupting their attack. Maybe it's not everything.
Maybe that would have
like,
to be on hit because...
No, that's what I said, on hit.
Yeah, because you can't just like
Or
not
crush.
let people block.
I could see that. I also think like it could have a number of like the tap or flip mechanics to like get different bonuses, like sort of like a levels of enlightenment type deal. Like you do one, you get this effect. You do two, you get both effects. You do three, and now you're cooking with gas.
Oh, I really like that.
Definitely.
Like a modal ability, each one asking you to tap an ally you control, and you can select up to 3. So all 3 presumably.
Yeah.
Giving you a reward for having like 4 allies on the board because you can tap 3, attack with this,
Right.
and then also still attack with an ally after maybe.
Yeah, because if none of the allies have go again, you got to have some way to cash in on when you do have multiple allies out at one time.
Yeah.
And instead, this would be a good way of giving them extra power without just being another Dromai where you swarm the board, attack with a bunch of shit with go again.
Yes, I really think they want to stay away with that from Necromancer, so I really love that prediction of having a Majestic... Well, hold on. This is starting to sound like 2 different cards. It can be on the same card, but it's kind of sounding like 2 different cards.
It could, yeah. No, you're not wrong.
But a reward for having a big, wide board state, really nice.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
We do have one last fan prediction.
And our good friend Atasis mentioned that there will be cards in the set that either have a cost of tapping your hero or that allow you to untap your hero. And this is interesting because it's the first time I think somebody's mentioned untapping your hero, which is a dangerous precedent. We just introduced tapping, and now we're like, all right, how do we untap and start tapping some more?
Yeah. Magic took a while to start letting people start untapping shit, right?
Well, I guess what really like appeals to me about this idea is that it doesn't automatically untap like during your cleanup step. So when you draw your hand, if your hero's tapped, it's just going to be tapped until you find an effect that untaps
Unless the rules
it.
say otherwise, right? Like, one, we're still assuming that the rule is tapping.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
assuming that, like, the rules behind tapping doesn't say untap at the start of your turn.
Well, like, I'm not assuming. I'm wondering if that is what they're going to do with it, you know?
I also really like the idea of, like, other cards that care about tapping your hero specifically. It would make sense for that to, like, only care about the hero ability and only be on the hero ability. But I like the idea of if they're making it a more thorough mechanic throughout the set. Sure, Necromancer is going to be able to, like, tap allies because Necromancer has allies, and we assume the other 2 won't. What are you going to do? Tap your arrows in Arsenal? Tap your gold tokens? Weird shit. Like, a consistent tapping your hero and, like, the generic seems like a cool and interesting thing to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun ways they could go with it. Or rather, have gone with it. We will see. I think we're going to move on to Yellow Pitch. We're going to make some predictions generally about the Ranger class now. And I can think of no other person to give us our best first prediction than Talon, the Ranger main.
Oh man, I am so excited. Guys, I have not had Ranger in a main set since Outsiders, which was the set that I started playing with. And whenever you start playing a game, the set that you join with doesn't count because that is just like, that is part of the established baseline. So this is the first time that I've been able to see Ranger like really given attention and given new tools.
And
So-
be in the hype cycle,
and be
right?
in the hype cycle, and we need it. God, it has been so long.
Outsiders is older than the podcast. Because Dust to Dawn was the first set that we talked about.
Yeah.
So it's been forever. You've been
So
an executive producer on this podcast longer than Rangers have appeared in a set.
And I have had nothing to keep me going other than an expansion slot in every single class, every single
God,
set,
time.
an armory
forbid.
deck.
Poor Talon gets a sweet ass expansion slot to
Every set.
Every
to bite his.
set.
Hold on to that thought for later. So with this set, very, very excited. So my first prediction for Ranger is that we are going to get a cycle of 2-cost arrows.
Oh, Neptune.
We have only ever gotten 2-cost arrows. Battering Bolt, that was only made 2-cost as like a meme, basically, for LSS. They're like, this feels like an impactful effect. We should make it 2-cost. And so they did. No. And then they gave us an expansion slot with Murky Water.
I think it was also to give a popper to Ranger.
Sure. But that was the only one. I think they could have given us a few more. I think they really undershot how much Ranger needed those poppers.
Okay.
So
now, I do have a question.
Yes.
What's a cycle?
Clark, I knew that you would ask that. I came prepared. I worded my question very, very carefully. Because in Flesh and Blood, a cycle can be a color cycle, right? You get red, yellow, blue. It could also be like a mechanical cycle. Like maybe there's like a red majestic 2-cost arrow cycle. Like one destroys arsenal, one discard a card from hand, and one is like, I don't know, kill an ally, whatever, right? I think it could be either. I don't think that like we're going to get 2-cost arrows as like a big mechanical theme for the set. I would love that. We've seen 2-cost pumps, so it's clear that they're trying to like up the curve a little bit, which I'm very excited for. But I still think that given how little 2-cost arrows we've seen, that they're going to try to keep that high impact and flashy. So it's either going to be one kind of core 2-cost arrow that's like red, yellow, blue, or like a majestic cycle of 2-cost arrows.
So do you mean like there's at least 3 2-cost arrows that have different names? Or if there's like one common that comes in red, yellow, blue, is that a cycle?
That's a cycle. But if they do that, I think
don't know
that
if that's a cycle.
That's a cycle.
That's one card that happens to be printed in 3 colors.
Okay, fine. The colors won't count as a cycle for this prediction. For this prediction, I am saying that there will be a cycle of mechanically different, differently named 2-cost arrows.
Talon, I really need these points. They're already one above me in predictions, and if our fucking guest who comes on one time beats me...
For the one Ranger set we've had in 2 years, come on, you just gotta give it to me, come on.
We're a bit of a sticklers here on our Pitchin' Predictions.
I have to fight
done game
for
show
every
episode.
goddamn half point.
There you are using that we word again.
I do want to build, though, a little bit on this, because there's a reason why I think 2-cost arrows are going to be there. We've already talked a little bit about how gold really allows you to utilize blue cards well, right? You pitch a blue, you draw a card, you have an extra resource floating. And notably, our Ranger, Marilyn, loads whenever you draw a card.
Marlin.
Marlin?
Like the
Marlin.
fish.
Oh, is it? Is that beneficial?
Yes.
It's spelled with a Y.
It's spelled
M-A-R-L-Y-N.
M-A-R-L-Y-N.
Right. Oh, yeah, okay.
It's not M-A-R-Y-L-Y-N.
Unless you like really pronounce the L. Marilyn.
Marlin. Okay. So
That's so stupid. Marlin? Oh my god.
Gravy Bones? Marlin?
oh my god.
Puffin?
I know there's an opening coming up soon there. Let me know, LSS. I know there's an opening coming up soon. Someone dropped the ball.
Okay. So Marlin, her hero ability is that whenever she draws a card, she gets to put, it looks like an arrow card, or maybe it's a card, but face up into her arsenal. So that means that if you pitch a blue, you're drawing a card, that lets you load and subvert the bow cost, right, in a similar way that Riptide can, while also generating resources. So I think that she'll be able to support a higher range, so I think that we're going to see 2-cost arrows coming from her.
Sure. And I do agree when I was talking about how LSS likes to go between, like, low-costed to high-costed sets in terms of, like, what's meaningful and important. Do they like everyone throwing a 3-for-7 with one action point? Or do they like a lot of 0-for-4s and like a lot more go again in the set? Typically, in the pattern, this would be a taller set, higher costed arrow support to that.
Yeah.
Next, I think we want to jump to a fan prediction. Gino Jack says Marlin's bow is going to be overcosted but have a passive effect, such as paying 3 resources as an action to load an arrow, and then all of your arrows might have piercing 1. So you wouldn't want to actually use the loading effect unless you had to, but kind of like how Dreadbore gives that like effect to all of your arrows, no matter if you use Dreadbore or not, like just giving your arrows that buff. That totally makes sense to me with Marlin's play pattern.
Yeah. And then trying to get around the loading condition by drawing cards, and how can you draw cards? How many times can you draw cards? making that as consistent as conceivably possible.
I'm vibing with it.
And that makes a lot of sense to me because something I felt that was always missing from Riptide specifically was the fact that his ability lets you load so easily. There wasn't really any benefit to loading from Riptide's ability as compared to like loading with Death Dealer or his signature bow or Dreadbore, because you have the draw card or the aim support. So it's like there's no reason for you to be using his ability. And so Marwyn, if she has a really insane bow that only she can use that has a powerful effect, then that would sort of silo her design a little bit, which would prevent another Lexi from coming out of nowhere, and also just be a lot more fun to play in general and focus on these theoretical two-costed arrows.
And I will say on the Riptide point, the benefit is either being able to play a bunch of zero-cost pumps to be hyper-aggressive, right? Like load your zero-cost arrow or whatever. But also his bow is Barbed Undertow, which needs a face-down arrow in order to flip to give it a name counter. The problem is that Barbed Undertow is a very underpowered card.
Yes.
So we find ourselves running others. And then, like you said, like sometimes you're not loading with Riptide as much. I rarely actually load an arrow with Riptide to attack on my turn.
Right.
I'm going to jump in here with my prediction, and I'm going to do a little hybrid prediction. That's right. I'm going to drag a Necromancer into our Ranger pitch here, and I'm going to say that there will be a hybrid Ranger Necromancer equipment that lets them loot. Specifically,
Yes.
I imagine this being a headpiece, but I'm leaving myself a little bit more open because this is making a couple big swings. One, that there's going to be hybrid cards,
Sure.
which we have not seen yet,
And hybrid equipment.
and hybrid equipment, which we do not know, and then this like looting effect. I think that the looting effect seems really powerful. I think it would be a nice thing to put in the head slot. I could see this easily being like a Ranger Legendary. I could see this being, you know, sort of like on how like Bloodstained, the Bloodstained chest from the Hunted is like this really powerful engine. I feel like there'd be a really powerful hybrid Ranger Necromancer engine in the headpiece of letting them loot multiple times, really helping the Necromancer fill their graveyard or the Ranger draw cards very often.
So are you predicting a legendary hybrid Ranger Necromancer equipment?
Not legendary.
Because I could totally see like a generic headpiece that does this.
I could see a generic headpiece that does this too. I'm kind of hoping to snag a half point, right? I'm like leaving this like, is it legendary or not? Is it hybrid or maybe it's just one of the classes?
Well, what
Like,
rarity do you think it'll be, Clark?
I think it honestly could be legendary or at common or at rare.
I'll just write in here. Legendary.
It won't be majestic.
Hybrid.
Okay. All right.
Non-majestic.
But I think I think looting is a powerful thing. It plays into that card advantage idea, so it being in the head slot makes a lot of sense for me. I just don't really know if like they may want to restrict that to just Ranger or just Necromancer. They may want to put that at the legendary because it's so powerful and make it repeatable, or maybe they want it to be a one-time use only for limited and leave it in the common slot. I think there's a lot of ways that they could go with it. But looting seems like a powerful thing, and it's something that they've already put on one of the Ranger cards.
Yes.
Of the draw a card, then discard a card. So, like, I think they do want that mechanic to be around.
I think that's going to be a nice way that they can let Marlin load without giving her a ton of card advantage.
Yeah.
Tight. I have a prediction to make about the quiver that I believe Marlin will inevitably get as a token. Because since they introduced quivers into the game, if you're going to make a Ranger, they should have a quiver available to them in draft, right? A draft token. I think her token quiver will allow her to create a harpoon token in her arsenal.
Oh, like a one-time use, make a harpoon.
You're like, oh, fuck. No arrows in my hand. I'm a Ranger in limited. This sucks. You crack your quiver, you create one of these tokens.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that's a very good prediction because that's something that we've been talking about in the Riptide community, Ranger community at large for quite some time, right? Like whenever we think about quivers, we've never had a quiver that generates arrows outside of kind of quiver of wrestling leaves that might pull one off the top. But that both addresses a core weakness of the Ranger class, which is that you run out of threats because you do not have a weapon, and is also very thematically on point. So that I hope you are right, Fuzzy, and I hope it's a generic Ranger so that all Rangers can play it.
If I'd add one more thing, we know that Marlin herself can make Goldfin harpoons. I like the idea that there'd be multiple different harpoon tokens. I've seen our user Aperku, who will give you another of his predictions later on in the episode, but he mentioned having maybe up to like 5 different Harpoon tokens running around, which I think is kind of a lot, but I could definitely see like more than one, you know?
Yeah,
I think I have a hard time seeing more than one.
We'll see how it goes. So I'm imagining like this one's not a Goldfin Harpoon, but we'll see. Maybe it will be. I'm not going to get specific about that.
Yeah. Let's get some fan predictions out here. I'm going to shout out this one for Mulvane because I read it and it's an example of parallel thinking here, Mulvane. Mulvane predicted that there will be a Codex of Frailty reprint. Specifically noted after that, just watch him give it the CNC legendary treatment.
Oh, man.
And honestly, yeah, I think that is how they want to do these big, expensive Majestic reprints. They want to pump it to legendary. They want to shove it into the expansion slot. Makes a lot of sense to me. But I want to give you your credit for that, Mulvane. Great prediction. Great minds think alike, buddy.
Okay, I have an important question regarding this theoretical reprint. Should assassins be allowed to play the High Seas themed codex in their decks? Because I think that should be left for the Rangers.
I think
if they do, you have the right to steal it from them.
Perfect.
You have the right
Okay.
to like put down one of your own codexes and be like, I'll fight you for it.
Okay, that's going to save me like $500.
Well, you still have to put down one of your own codexes.
Okay, like $2. Codexes are expensive.
Yes?
Joel, why don't you hit us with your Ranger themed prediction?
All right. I was feeling not that inspired from Ranger, but I was looking at Marlin. God, what a stupid name. I was looking at Marlin's hero ability. It seems like if they're floating around this like 2-cost buff and or arrow theme, that the Golden Harpoon might be like your reward for gold and therefore be free. And so I was thinking that Ranger, if there was going to be a class dedicated to this mechanic, would be the untapping class.
Ooh.
And by that I mean, if you build up a lot of gold and you're this mid-range ranger that plays like 2-costed arrows, 2-cost pumps, maybe you want like several arrows in a singular turn where it's like 0 for 3 go again, sort of like Crouching Tiger or some other like ephemeral token, just to spam the board with attacks and then finish off with your one big arrow for the turn, coupled with like Rain Razors or something. I don't know. It just seems like there's not a lot of like power baked into Ranger, so if it was going to be this class about either damage or disruption, I think it would be around like being able to activate your ability multiple times in one turn.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I know there's definitely a type of Ranger player that's itching for that really go wide Ranger that Lexi was able to bring, and if they're able to lean into those and use those big arrows as finishers, I can totally see Marlin almost having this kind of combo feel to it during certain power turns. Yeah.
I really, really like the tapping, untapping. Like, just in terms of that physical action, it feels very rangery.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know how else to describe it, but I really like that idea. It feels like drawing the bow, releasing the bow, drawing the bow, releasing the bow, right?
Or crossbow. I'm just kidding.
Or crossbow.
Yeah, like Rangers love to like tip their headpiece because they're opting, and tip their hero because they're activating Azalea, and then
or like
tip their
tipping
bow.
the weapon because
Or Voltaire would be like tap tap, and now it's upside down. Ooh.
Yeah.
They love flipping around their fucking equipment slots.
Yeah.
Rangers have kind of already been tapping a lot of stuff, so like
Sluts.
Hey,
what the fuck, Fuzzy? Where did that come
that's
from?
not very ally-like of you.
I mean, you've seen Riptide. Come on. I would also like to note that Marlin loads in things face up, so you cannot trench the cards that you load with her hero ability. It's going to be really good for New Horizons, but come on, trench. She's got to work.
Oh, that reminds you. Fucking told you that trench was not going to be usable in this goddamn set.
Wait, you don't know that. You don't know
So
that.
to everyone who bought it for $200, you deserve it.
God, the speculation prices have been insane.
Yeah, that's
We have one more fan prediction for this section. Ozzy Pepper has stated that he thinks universal gold support for other heroes that use gold is going to be printed.
So universal cards will make a comeback. That is definitely what this is saying.
Is it?
I don't know.
We did see like a bunch of heroes be printed around gold synergies in heavy hitters, and it's about time for them to maybe get some more support, you know?
I mean, if I was correct in saying that Pirate isn't going to have a really big class, like a really big talent identity, then like I think universal cards would be really necessary to help plug some of those gaps.
Yeah. I do have one other prediction for Ranger. I'm cashing in my bonus prediction.
Ooh.
And that is that I think that Rangers in this set are going to gain access to allies of their own.
Ooh.
This is another thing that we've talked a lot about in the Riptide community. We hate allies, right? Because they're such a pain to get rid of with your arrows. But Rangers, as a fantasy archetype, often deal with animal companions. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's going to be a situation of like, draw my, like, here's my wide field of Ashwings or something. But I do think it makes a lot of sense to be like, you're a ranger. Here's your wolf companion. Here's your parrot companion. Here's your whatever companion.
This is my best friend.
Yeah.
Please don't kill him.
It also gives you... I never thought about other people killing my little animal companion.
Oh, I thought Fuzzy was saying, listeners, Talon is my best friend. Please find him in a dark alley.
No.
But it also solves the problem of like Rangers running out of threats, right? Because like allies are very fragile threats, especially if you only have one. But that does give you some ability to like send things multiple turns if you draw a hand of all pumps or like all D reacts or something along those lines. So I think that Rangers are going to get allies. I would even go so far as to say that every class is going to have allies. I think this is going to feel like the allies set. And I think we've seen allies referenced in more than just the Necromancer card so far.
The macro, it
Yeah.
references allies. But it says like blank or an ally you control. The card can work if you don't have an ally, assumedly, but it also like kind of implies that maybe anyone could have an ally.
And this is a macro. Like, I do think that like we're going to see... I think that like Necromancers is going to be the ally class, definitely, with like a wide ally base. But I think mechs are going to have access to an ally, and I think Rangers are going to have access to an ally.
Man, I think that's so wrong. But hey, that's Pitchin predictions,
God,
baby.
I'm going to get so many points in June.
Well, awesome. Those are some nice predictions about Ranger. Are we ready to move on to Blue Pitch, talking about Mechanologist?
Yeah.
And now for my favorite class in all of Flesh and Blood, Mechanologist, because they needed this in this set specifically. And I think we're going to start off with Fuzzy's prediction. What do you have for us?
For my Mechanologist prediction, I think that Sky Skimmer, the card we got that says it's a 0 for 4 with a once per turn instant, you can blank a cog you control. I assume it's tap, but the jury's still out. And you get to give the Sky Skimmer either +1 or go again. I think that this is a common rider that we're going to see on multiple cards in the set. I think there's going to be a 1 for 5 version of this. Tap a cog, get +1 or go again. I think there's going to be a 2 for 6 version. Tap a cog, get +1 or go again. I don't quite think there's going to be a 3 for 7 go again, like there's no 3 for 7 throttle, but...
Yeah. Oh, maybe they do a 3 for 6 one.
Oh, 3 for 6? That seems a little bit more likely.
Just like Gas Guzzler.
And then each of them have an additional tap requirement. Or the 1 for 5 requires 2 for 6 requires
Oh, wow.
So you need
Just
just
have 2 cogs.
It feels very Mechanologist coded to be like, here's a card you already have, but like a little different and maybe worse.
You guys are either going to suck or be really consistent.
Zaliver, correct me if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but they said that there will be no boosting in this set. So it might be cranking, but no boosting.
Damn.
Is this a ground fruit prediction? Because I think some people are like, yeah, there's no way there's boost in this set, but I still think they could print some boost in this set.
I don't think this is a ground fruit, honestly. I think we.
Oh, sorry. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Joel. Listeners, we want to maybe explain what the term ground fruit means.
No.
If they're new to the podcast, they can pick it up. They can pick up the ground fruit and learn what it means.
It means just like a really basic prediction.
God damn it! Shit!
No, it's like low-hanging fruit, but it's so low-hanging it is on the ground. It is ground fruit.
Yeah. This is like circa 2024 predictions where we would just try to get points and either do 100 predictions or do really simple predictions.
We've refined our ways.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like really close to being ground fruit, and the only reason is because LSS has been vocal about wanting to move away from boost, and they haven't done that yet with Mechanologist, right? So I do think that like this is the set where they're going to really expand and look to push it in some different directions.
Oh, also, I think the last time Mechanologist was in a set with other classes outside of Mech was Arcane Rising. I felt like that draft environment was especially punishing because you literally needed a deck full of Mechanologist cards, or you cannot play Dash effectively.
Yeah.
And in order to sort of have Mechanologist flex into different power cards or generics or defense reactions, block cards, whatever, I think they would need a lot less of the boosting cards unless it's like on an equipment with Go Again. That way, whatever you boost off the top or whatever is not as relevant, I guess.
But at the same time, the advancements that they've made in their limited structure since Arcane Rising with universal cards and hybrid cards, I think could still make it so that they can print some boost. I'm not saying a lot of boost, but some boost in the set and actually still help it maybe feel just a little risky.
Clark, you seem especially excited to talk. What's your prediction for Mechanologist?
So this is definitely a prediction I don't feel great about. I don't know. LSS was so reserved in bright lights, and I don't feel like they've been giving us any direction as to what the future of mech might look like. They're still super tied to boost, and boost isn't going anywhere in constructed. So, like, I don't really know what they're going to do. So I just threw something out there about the new weapon, which is the weapon will only be able to attack if an item has been destroyed this turn. So whether that is the start of the turn, right? They're losing the counters, and it's like no steam counters on this, so the item gets destroyed.
Yeah.
But it's that idea of like how blunderbusses used to work and like how some of these cannons used to work, which is that you just kind of shove a bunch of fucking scrap into your cannon and you'd shoot that. And that kind of feels like what mech would do, right? Like they have all this extra scrap lying around, and so they would, I mean, maybe it literally says scrap on it, and so they would, banish items from their graveyard to be able to attack with it. Maybe it's gated in that way, but I'm going with an item being destroyed.
I like that a lot. It seems like a good evolution and pivot on like that needing to interact with items to get the value out of your weapon that we've kind of seen from, like the most recent iteration of Mechanologist.
And I'm going to quickly go over to a fan prediction because they were on the same wavelength as you, Clark. That lemur that was caught earthbending illegally also predicted that there would be a blunderbuss in the Mechanologist kit, which is really interesting to me because I'm really hoping for a flintlock wherever it can come up in this set, but I would take a blunderbuss too because those are sick.
Yeah, her art looks very like sort of pistol-y, right? She's like the more swashbuckling kind of hero,
right.
like the one-handed, running around on the ropes sort of thing, swinging from ship to ship.
It is going to be a hype day when we get to see the weapons for these guys because we have been hyping for pirate weapons for ever since we started thinking about pirates and Fab.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything done that day. I'm just calling it out.
Just gazing lovingly at the spoilers.
Just caressing your screen.
I feel like each one of these classes has like potentially a weapon that the respective classes have been talking about for a long time, like flintlock, harpoons, whatever necromancers smack people with, like people already.
Yeah.
Probably other people.
Yeah, like a bone.
Or a monkey's paw, just like slapping people around with a monkey's paw.
I want to stay on this prediction for a little bit and say that I've seen multiple other predictions talk about like for each item that gets destroyed, like you put a counter on, or like each item you galvanize, you put a counter on the weapon, and then once you sacrifice so many you can shoot, kind of like a Hanabi blaster.
Or it just has 3 separate lines of galvanize, so you have to galvanize 3 things to attack.
I mean, that would be very interesting because so far Galvanize has only cared about block value and increasing block value, but there being offensive Galvanize value, that was one of the predictions I was toying around with. I won't take it come June.
Oh, we know.
But I will bring it up for spiritual victory and for personal pat on the back points.
Sounds good.
Can't wait.
You can keep that spiritual tally. All right, I want to move back to a PITM host prediction. Talon, what do you have for us? You've been...
Yeah,
host number 3. What do you got?
Whoa.
I mean...
Number 3.
My prediction for Mechanologist, I guess it's kind of like not Mechanologist, but I think it's going to tie into what the Mechanologist class is trying to do. And that is that we are going to see the return of generic items.
Ooh.
This is something that I really, really loved in Everfest, these kind of like various trinkets and stuff that do
me
these different
too.
effects.
I talk about those all the time.
They're so much fun. I've like built Riptide decks revolving around playing a bunch of those.
Of course you have.
Yeah. And so I think that it like fits the pirate vibe, you know, it's like there's lots of junk, there's lots of trinkets, you're collecting the treasure, right? And so I think they're going to evolve that. I don't think it's going to be as much as what was in Everfest. This is a draftable set. Those are hard cards, but I do think we're going to see a couple of at least one or two generic items that everyone can play. And then Mechanologist is probably going to be interested in picking those up in draft because of, you know, how it can support their other cards.
Maybe these are also our counterplay hate items. Joel, I know you said recently in our life gain episode about items being a really good angle for hate cards because they can resolve and then sit on the board until it becomes relevant.
Also, in general, like I look back to Time Snap Potion and Energy Potion and how impactful those cards have been in so many builds across so many heroes, and I just like the idea of them returning to just adding generically good items that have this wide application, not in the way that like these majestic generics will do sometimes, but still like, you know, some other way to like foster a new type of game plan.
I mean, majestic generic item?
I think that'd be pretty cool. I'd love to see that. Be like Parrot in a cage, you know, everyone gets like a 1/1 ally. You can crack it. Crack all!
Joel, do you have a prediction for Mechanologist?
Actually, I do.
Whoa.
So I was also looking at the hero ability of fucking Puffin. Oh my god. Every time I say these names, it just irks me a little bit.
Is this going to be the next year?
It might be.
Because Kano was like a bad pun, but we were still like, Kano sounds like a fantasy name.
Wait,
you know?
What's Kano?
Volcano.
Oh my. Are you kidding me?
You would have told me that.
No.
Yes, you did.
He purged it from his mind.
It's probably Fuzzy. I confuse you two all the time.
Wow. Actually, hold on, Joel. We're friends again. Fuck you, Fuzzy. Fuck Fuzzy.
Oh, so anyways, I was looking at Puffin Hightail.
Do you believe the greatest set of all time is fielded by the three horsemen of the apocalypse? Puffin, Gravy, fucking Bones, and Marlin with two ends.
This is...
The two ends so that they're like, it's not that bad,
I'm moving past it.
Just call her Puff.
I need to power through this.
Puff the magic dragon.
If you just can't say Puffin because it's too ridiculous.
I'm moving past it. So Puffin is going to have this new Pirate High Octane card. This is also like a flashback to my Marlin prediction, but I still think it could be cool because Mechanologist has played with extra action points more so than Ranger has, and certainly more than Necromancer will. And so far, the only way that I can think of Puffin being able to activate her hero ability twice would be through the armory deck pieces, specifically the leg piece that Dio got, where you banish 2 cards. If they're Mechanologist, you get 1 action point for each. And so if there is this Pirate High Octane or Pirate Octane card, then you could make better use of the second line of text as well as create a bunch of golden cogs.
Yeah. I mean, I love the shout out for the High Octane replacement. I think we're all expecting it to come in this set, or we're really hoping it comes in this set. I think mech players especially are like, please, dear God, give us High Octane back. I just wonder, Joel, are you saying it's going to have Pirate at the bottom and it won't be playable in like Dash and Max?
Correct. I think it's going to be specifically tied to Pirate Mechanologist either via gold generation, which Mech really can't do reliably, or through the Pirate tag, which again will probably be with gold anyways.
Okay.
Because I don't think they would ban High Octane and then print all the support to sort of supplement the leaving of High Octane for Dash IO and the extra cards for Max to push them away from this High Octane game plan and then print another one that they can all use. That wouldn't make sense to me.
I could totally see a card that's like, every time an item is destroyed this turn, you get an action point. And then you crack all your gold, it's only have resources and action points.
Yeah.
But you had to get a bunch of gold to set it up.
Crack all my E-pods. Now I got 6 resources.
And just like that, it's a bad design.
Yeah, and these extra action points would be really helpful if Aperku's prediction comes to pass, which is that Mechanologist gets a new pistol, and they become the Pistol Mechanologist, replacing the Tree Frog Dash build where you run a lot of generics and focus on your pistols for late game.
Yeah. That's so interesting of like using the Galvanize that we've already seen to be like the high defensive version and then using whatever pistol support packages with a new pistol item. I mean, hey, we were saying flintlock earlier, right?
Yep.
I could totally see like a pistol package replacement. Although I also feel like we kind of have that with Teklovozen. I don't see like the pistol mech players like pivoting into Teklovozen for some reason, even though it has a very similar play pattern. You block out a whole bunch, you get your items out in the field, and then you have a win condition late game, you know?
Yeah, this might be the mech that gets me into Mechanologist. Like, being able to, like, fire a bunch of flintlock pistols just seems like a lot of fun. Someone has to do it in this fucking set. Someone does.
Now, wait a minute, Joel. I also see here on the notes that you're cashing in your bonus.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the note says super secret prediction.
Is this
Oh,
the
that-
shit you got excited about earlier?
Yeah, I was.
Am I right in that this prediction is so secret you can't even say it on the pod right now?
I can't even say it. I have to write it down.
No, don't do this to me. You can't do this to me. I built this company from the ground with my own 2 hands.
I'm going to release a series of Twitter posts, and each one letter at the beginning is going to spell out the prediction. So over the course of 13 months after the set comes out, you'll know what the prediction was.
You have to write it down and then open it up during the rehash.
That's so baller.
So I was thinking about the cards that LSS deleted before I could, or after I screenshotted them.
The Pirate
where is
Necromancer ones?
Yeah, the Pirate Necromancer cards. So if you take a look at Hoist Them Up, it says, when this defends, you may something an ally you control. If you do, this gets +1 defense. And then I was looking at, what's-his-face, Gravy Bones, and he says, instant, mystery symbol, destroy a gold you control, draw a card, and then discard a card. So I was sort of inspired by Atasis's prediction, saying that there are cards in the set that either have a cost of tapping your hero or able to untap your hero. And so I was thinking that each of these cards have a either demi hero or a backing to their card, so that you're actually flipping your hero or flipping your ally in this case. Because all of these abilities seem really strong, especially if the rules reply say like you untap at the start of your turn, so you get 2 activations or 1 activation on each turn, right? Like you tap on your opponent's turn to loot, and then on your turn you untap and do it again, and vice versa. That seems pretty strong, and it's sort of breaking the action point economy similar to how Icelander did. So I was wondering if there is a way that's on the card that isn't super obvious to prevent people from just abusing this mechanic. And then I was thinking about like Arachne Marionette, because all of their forms sort of, you get like 1 turn of it and then you return back to the Brood, and that's how it sort of balances itself. So my prediction is that each of the allies and each of the heroes have a backside to it with some sort of text that reverts to the original form, and that's how you untap instead of a rules reprise.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Sounds like a Joel design, all right.
Yeah, really complicated, hard to execute. Yeah,
It lived up to the hype. I don't know.
Yeah.
That still seems less complicated than Marionette. You know, where like you have like 5 tokens. You know, so it's like within the realm of complexity in the game. Like, it seems doable.
It would also make a lot of sense as to why like the heroes kind of got revealed with little fanfare. And even though they walked back those Pirate Necromancer cards, they have not walked back the hero card reveals.
Right, because like why would you leave those up if that's like the main part of the set? Like even the mechanics still are a big reveal, but they left the heroes up for some reason. And so I think there's a lot left baked into the hero design. Yeah, not expecting a point on that one. That was just more so I wanted to talk about it. But I think that's... Did everyone go? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's it for Blue Pitch. We've talked enough about Mechanologist for a time, but I think we should go to our Arsenal Zone where we have plenty more suggestions.
Now, normally in our Arsenal Zone, what we do is that we talk about a card we love to hate, and we shout out a patron card along the way. But Pitchin Predictions mixes it up.
Special episode.
Yeah. Instead, what we do in our Arsenal Zone is that we make a prediction about what cards we think will appear in the expansion slot for the set. So it's a way of us sort of breaking the mold, and rather than just talking about what's appearing in this set, we spend a little bit of time sharing the love and talking about heroes that aren't quite appearing in the set.
And before we start off with the rest of the predictions that we have for the set, we still want to make time for our lovely patrons. And if you don't know, as part of the $5 and up tier, patrons can submit Arsenal Zone suggestions that we talk about them like right now. And we sort of talk about a little bit why you like the card, why we like the card. It's a good thing. So we're going to start off by selecting randomly. And dice roll noise. The winner is Josh or Fop Doodle. Woo!
Josh suggested to talk about Channel the Millennium Tree. He says, I played the Runechant Stacking Florian list in person for the first time the other night and really saw its versatility shine. Earth block 3 for Decompose? Hell yeah. Threaten 4 damage and 4 Runechants with Scepter of Pain? Hell, period, yeah, period. Threaten that for 2 turns in a row? Question mark, question mark, question mark? Bruh. Just really liked how the card fits in the list, and it makes sense why it's run even in non-stacking builds. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, this card has dunked on me many a times. One of my good friends, Garrett, he has been really enjoying playing Verdant, especially when she saw a lot of relevance at the start of the Hunted meta. The way that this card transforms arcane damage is really interesting, and the fact that it's also a channel card, I love the channel cards.
Oh, yeah.
So that was really flavorful and fun to see iterated upon in the all arcane set. So yeah, very cool card. Very good shout out, Josh.
It's like a little subtle. Like, I think this card's a little hard to evaluate at face value, but it is actually really good, and just run it. It's great.
Yeah. And I've also seen Florian's run Dread Scythe, and that might not be the best rate, but if you have Channel the Millennium Tree, you pitch a blue, and I think it's 4 and 1 arcane, if I'm not mistaken.
3 and 4.
Yeah, so it'd be 3 and 4 arcane. So a 1 card 7 if you keep it around for a turn. That doesn't seem too bad.
No. Thanks for the shout, Josh.
Yeah, and if you want your card to be mentioned by your 3 favorite hosts, sometimes 4, be sure to keep an eye out for my announcements next week for another chance. And now let's get back to the pitch and predictions part.
So I'll lead off in the Arsenal Zone. I think for the expansion slot, we're going to get a Draconic card, especially one geared towards Fang.
Aw,
Interesting.
thank you.
Because who are the latest heroes to be even eligible to receive expansion slot cards? It's Syndra, Fang, and Arachne. And I think they might have expected Syndra to be strong. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. It's hard to tell what LSS expects to be the good heroes, but Syndra definitely had a meta scare a little bit a while ago.
I think she is strong. I just think she falls to the same issues that all aggro decks do, whereas someone has bigger, better numbers and more consistently. So that's the best deck.
Whereas Fang, I think they might have been holding back a little bit more in the design space. So I think they would be more comfortable releasing an expansion slot for Fang right after.
I agree. Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen.
Cool. Thank you, Fuzzy.
Let's do a fan prediction.
Which one?
I'm going to shout out Old Barnacle.
He's had that username for a long time. He didn't just make it for this set.
Yeah. He's been a barnacle for as long as he possibly could.
Old Barnacle has predicted that there will be a captain's hat. Joel!
Yes.
You didn't have to make the prediction. You got through the whole episode without making the prediction.
Me and Mr. Barnacle have been on fucking point, I think all day. We've just been 2 peas in a pod. Thank you so much for this prediction. I 100% agree there should be a Crown of Dominion pirate hat. Enough said.
Could wear that with Trench and then Riptide and finally be a pirate.
Never mind, I'm not on board. Scrap.
So for my Arsenal Zone prediction, I am going to talk about an expansion slot card. That's what we're all doing, expansion slot cards. And I am going to predict that there's going to be a Chaos expansion slot card. It could be Chaos Assassin, but I'm going to go with just Chaos.
You don't
Hedging
think
my bets a little bit.
You don't think one is more likely than the other?
I'm not sure if one's going to be more likely than the other. They may do a Chaos expansion slot and an Assassin expansion slot, and then I look like a fool with egg on my face. But
yeah, then you just be dead wrong. You said it would be one or the other. No points for Clark.
yeah, that's how you guys have gotten me in the past. But the reason why I like the idea of there being an expansion slot card is because in an interview, Brian Gottlieb said that they did design Chaos cards, but they didn't like how it interacted in the limited environment.
Oh, wow.
And so they just put them on ice. And what do they like to do with cards that are on ice? Put them into the expansion slot. So I think that they are going to try to find some Chaos support in the expansion slot. And that's going to also be a way of giving cards to Assassin right after everyone got really sick of Assassin getting cards, right? Like, Marionette can still get some cards, still get some new things for them without, like, ramping up the entire Assassin class again.
Have we seen a Chaos Assassin card? They're all just Chaos, right?
They're all just Chaos, which is why I think there might be a Chaos Assassin card. They may have designed one for Arachne Marionette and then just been like, well, it doesn't really work with what we're doing in the set, and, like, it doesn't line up, so we're just going to put it somewhere else.
Talon, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So speaking of Riptide, I have a prediction.
Oh?
It's the same prediction I've been making every set for the last year. And I've been doing great with this prediction. Even whenever people said it wouldn't work, it has. And that is that Riptide is going to have an expansion slot in
This is a Ranger
set!
set!
He's going to have an expansion slot. He's down in the pits.
Was there an Assassin, Ninja, or Warrior one last set? Was there a Runeblade or Wizard one in Rosetta? Was, like...
Riptide special.
I thought specifically there are, like, the classes do not appear in the expansion
So
slot.
technically there was a light warrior expansion slot in
Okay.
Hunted, so I don't know if you count that, but it does say warrior on there.
There was Retrace the Past, which is a Katsu specialization in the Hunted.
Okay. Okay.
See? So
there's
Riptide is going to have it. There's
precedent,
strong precedent.
Riptide is just always going to get the expansion
And
slot
Clark-
from now until the end of time.
Like, that's another precedent. we have two precedents here. Clark, I know you're wanting for specificity, so I will even go a little bit further as to say what kind of expansion slot this is going to be. And I'm not going to say traps. I haven't said traps all episode. I
That's
think there's going to be
true.
lots of traps. I think that's ground fruit. I think that we're going to see
Oh.
traps in this set. And it'll
Look
be
at
fun.
Talon coming up on a step ladder.
Yeah, but I think, and I almost put this in the Ranger thing, so if this gets in the set, I'm going to be a little disappointed. But if it's in the expansion slot, I think that we're going to see a majestic bow for Ranger that is geared towards Riptide's gameplay.
Okay.
Because Death Dealer is about to LL with Azalea, especially with all these new tools. Barbed Undertow is not good. Dreadbore is great. I love Dreadbore. I think it fits kind of what Riptide is trying to do, but I think that they could make something that more specifically fits his vibe. And why I think it might be in the expansion slot as opposed to the set, it's probably going to be in the set. But this is where I had an extra prediction.
They have never printed majestic weapons or equipment in the sets for like a year plus.
No, but they did with the Hunter's Glaive, right?
No, that was expansion slot.
Oh, so there's so much precedent for printing support for classes. Okay, 100%. So I think that Riptide that they're going to print a bow that is geared towards Riptide. Yeah, and I just can't wait to see who that is.
Yeah, because you're getting it. Like,
Yeah, I'm
whatever
gonna
Talon
get
wants,
that.
Talon gets. Every single set.
Let's do another fan prediction. Ozzy Pepper says that he thinks we're going to get, you ready for this? Get this, a Dromide Dust.
Oh my god.
This one for Asvalite, the
You know, we
Lightning
didn't
Storm
get one
Dragon.
last set.
For,
There was no dust in Hunted.
for Hunted?
There
Yeah.
was no dust.
We were dustless.
No.
There was no dust.
I know, shocking with all the
That
Dromai's
is,
running
that
around.
is that is genuinely shocking. I didn't know that. Ha, shocking.
But it's only when they go away from Volcors when they print to dust. So.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
That's the precedent.
Where-
And Asvalai is a storm dragon, and Storm on the high seas. I see it.
Yeah.
I see you, Aussie Pepper.
It's
And we're
the
going to
ally
get
set.
manifestations of Azalai.
Pitch 2 blues, deal 10 arcane to your opponent, win the fucking game.
I think we all hope that you're wrong, but thank you for the shout out, the prediction, Ozzy Pepper.
I know that Aussie Pepper doesn't hope he's wrong. He loves collecting the dusts.
I'm going to go next. I think there's going to be the first ever 0-for-4 charged card.
Wow.
We're just
Bolton
doing
players.
the Talon strategy of like, they're just gonna keep giving Bolton cards, I swear to God.
I mean,
Except the precedent is that they never do.
No, they have. Bolton got one last set. Bolton got one in Bright Lights. Bolton also got one, I want to say, in one of the other sets in 2024.
There was an Armory deck.
There was an Armory deck.
But the first set with expansion slots, that's two. I don't know. But I hope it. You need it. You need these damn 0-for-4s.
Yeah,
First 0-for-4 charge card other than Express Lightning.
sorry. A good 0-for-4 charge card. Preferably with Go Again. I'll take it without it. But I would preferably like Go Again.
Express Lightning isn't good, Joel. Do you guys not run Express Lightning?
Didn't they already print like a 0 for 3 that if you charge a yellow, it becomes a 0 for 4, essentially giving it go again?
That sounds like a 0
Yeah.
for 3, Clark.
Thank you. Someone's listening to me on this fucking podcast.
Yeah, Beaming Bravado is almost a 0 for 4, but you want a 0 for 4.
I said what I said.
That's not Express Lightning.
If I'm giving up a card,
You want a 0
a 4
for
on
4 with go again.
that would be gas, yeah.
Yeah.
Can a man dream? Is that too much to ask?
I mean, they're your points.
This is beyond the points. This is
that's
about
so
principle, man. He's the first one after your beta and alpha set. Show him some love, you know? God. These fucking podcasters, man.
So N21LV has predicted that in the expansion slot, we are getting the long-awaited Betsy log.
The log.
This is another one that comes up every time we do Pitchin predictions, but
Surely this is the set.
But N21LV brings a good point. It's like, maybe it's like a broken mast that she found, and it's like the ship mast and boats and high seas and Betsy log.
That's a great point,
That's-
and not at all copium.
That's so funny. My friend Garrett was also saying something similar. He was like, guys, I was wrong previously. Previously, I said, surely in Rosetta we get it, because Rosetta has trees. Trees are made of wood. You make a log out of that. But then he's like, but wait. High seas is on boats. Boats are made out of wood. And what's the log made out of? So surely.
Anytime there's the possibility of wood, it's like Betsy log.
Guys, it's going to be crazy whenever at Nats this year, the finals is like Betsy swinging in with a log. Bolton has to block with all cards but one. That one card, 0 for 4.
Future is now, baby.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Clark, I think you never used your bonus prediction.
Oh my gosh, I don't think I ever did use my bonus prediction.
Do you think maybe you can like improvise one off the cuff?
Yeah, definitely not one just written here in the notes. I don't really care about the expansion slot. I don't really know what directions they want to go in. I feel kind of aimless with what LSS is trying to do with a lot of classes right now.
Okay, first of all, that's what makes this part so fun, is you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, but I like being right. It's worked out great for me being 1 against both of your 2, but my bonus prediction is going to be that there's not going to be a lot of generic or universal gold generation. And I say this primarily because looking at the macro, it generates gold. Mm-hmm. Why would the macro generate gold if there's going to be a bunch of gold generation in the set? Because there isn't going to be. I think that they want gold generation to be a little bit heavier and limited so that people are using their hero abilities. But the moment that you go to constructed, time to be build-arounds, right?
Yeah.
It's time to be your Majestics. It's time to be, you know, your big splashy effects. Maybe you need to run wage gold, money where your mouth is, and you got to find other ways of generating gold for your hero abilities. But in terms of limited, yeah, fuck it. Everyone get a bunch of gold, and it's going to be attached to the macro.
If I may, Clark, I think you're onto something, because the Rosetta macro was a arcane prevention macro in the way that the sort of arcane prevention in that limited environment was gaining a lot of life to offset the arcane damage. And then there wasn't that many ways to prevent arcane damage specifically. You had to, like, you know, still run null rune boots, or, you know, maybe arcane polarity if you had if you wanted a specific tech piece. So I think you're onto something there for sure.
That's it. Those are my 2 predictions here in the Arsenal Zone.
Well, I think that about wraps up our episode.
Yeah?
It's a really big shame that like Captain Hornswoggle couldn't join us for this episode. I bet he would have fucking loved it.
He brought so much insight to as a pirate.
Yeah.
All of his predictions would have been accurate, 100%.
I bet you he got a spoiler card, and we would have been able to talk about it today, but, you know.
Maybe that's why he is kind of ghosted you guys a little bit. He's on an NDA, you know? He doesn't want to accidentally leak anything.
Yeah,
Wait, Captain Hornswoggle ghosting? Necromancers.
Bones.
Is Captain Hornswoggle dead? Did he die to the Kraken? Is he going to show up as an undead ghost?
You know, I've never seen him and Captain Gravy Bones in the same place at the same time.
I'm sorry, Captain Gravy Bones? He's just Gravy Bones.
Oh, Gravy Bones.
What if
He's not in the military. Oh, well, thank you for potting with me, boys, and Talon.
Whoa!
He's a man.
I'm not one of the boys. I'm not over here all the time.
He's host number 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm low on the totem pole. I'm at least 4th on the call sheet, if not lower.
Well, we appreciate Talon joining us all the same.
This was so fun.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I got to be here for this.
Yeah.
And be sure to join a Discord because remember, the only place you can find spoilers is in the Pitch It To Me podcast Discord server.
Yeah.
And also, feel free to join the Patreon if you felt like your prediction or your suggestion would have been really good in our Arsenal Zone today. So keep trying, and we'll get you guys next time. Bye.
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 Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by Joel Recinos, Clark Moore, and Fuzzy Delp. Our executive producer is Talon Stradley. Our logistics coordinator is John Farkas. Music is produced by Dillon Hulse. Logo is designed by Han V. And our sound mixing is done by Christopher Moore. Last but not least, thank you, the listener, for taking the time to listen to our podcast. Be sure to give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me Podcast.
Huff and Hightail has an ability where you mystery symbol and you destroy a gold you control to make a golden cog. So I wanted to talk a bit about what I think that golden cog might be.
What's a golden cog?
I'm thinking that like it's a pretty safe assumption that this cog is going to crank. You can be
Agreed.
cranking your cog.
Cranking my cog.
Nothing I love more than cranking my cog with my boys.
It's
Am I
going to
right?
be just cranking
my
cogs. Cranking
What?
with your parrot.
With the parrot.
Oh,
Because there's a
parrot.
little parrot.
It's gonna be nothing but cranking cogs for the next like 4 months after this set comes
I
out.
can just imagine Han being like, I don't really like this mechanologist, but I get to say cranking my cog, so...
Can you imagine the casters? He's cranking his cog. The other person's cranking his cog in response.
Yes, we are a 9-year-old.
I think it's a pretty safe assumption that golden cogs are gonna be crankable.
Go on. There might be some text on there, like if it's tapped, you can't attack.
Oh, totally. And I think there should be, right?
Unless you can tap it 4 times. So you go tap to the right, tap, then tap again to the left, and then tap all the way up.
Like
That
you're
would
playing
actually
Lexi.
be a really dope mechanic in like a clockwork-based class, where like
Goodness.
as it goes through the time positions, and like there's a marker on the card border for like, is it noon, 3
Oh,
o'clock,
God.
6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock?
I think we've got our next episode.
That's some Flesh and Blood like 9.0 stuff, you know?
Oh yeah, that's that we're getting into the gimmicks.
That's like after Universes Beyond Flesh and Blood magic crossover.
This is like the 14th secret layer
Right.
down the line.